Aloha. It's an important topic today. Let's talk about catalysts. What if you could spark a change in someone where you don't need a title, you don't need a stage, you don't need to be in a leadership position, and yet you could spark some kind of change? Today, we know that so many women, and I'm going to focus on women. Thanks to you guys, we just want those who love us and support us, great. But we know that many women feel unseen, stuck, or their voice just doesn't matter. Catalysts aren't always loud, which is the good news. They're often, what I find, the quiet ones, the ones who refuse to ignore the truth. They stand firm. They're not loud, but they're taking a step, a small step that changes everything. Now, in my case, I was often called intimidating by the people who wanted to bully or force us to do things that just didn't make any kind of sense at all. I've shared some of those stories. So you can be quiet but firm and unyielding when things are just not good and people are being harmed. That really triggers me to get involved. If I see someone being harmed, that is my impetus because I know that many aren't going to be involved. But doing that can change everything. It can change that whole dynamic. I believe that I used to have to be in charge to change everything, but that's not true. I witnessed how a kind question or even any kind of question that was effective could completely change a toxic situation because people will operate on assumptions, which we'll talk about sometime in the future, and then they'll take action by reacting to it. When we talk about catalysts, this is now the 22nd talk. If you're finding this helpful to you, please support the movement. Please sign up for the Stress Intelligence channel on YouTube. It's youtube.com at Stress Intelligence. That one action can help me reach more women who I'm really trying to reach out to, like you, who want to rise, who want to lead, and want to love harder and make a big difference in this world. I'd love to share a story that is, I think, really telling. Most times when things are not going the way we want, we're very upset because we can see that people are being harmed and other things are happening. It's an example of one thing that I was able to affect in my time. It had to do with when I was in a leadership position this time. I think you'll understand why this is important. I was starting a new job. I was a full colonel. I had gone through a lot of training, so I was out of the office quite a bit for the first month. I came in and I had a pile of paperwork and I needed a copy of something. I just needed a copy of something. My front office, interestingly, when I looked out my door, it was not my direct support who was sitting there, it was my colleagues' direct support. I went out there, I could see her. I looked over at my person and she was on the phone. So I said, okay, she's on the phone. Let me just go over. We're all one team here, right? I'll go over to the other support person and she'll help me. I stood there and I said, would you please make a single copy for me of this document? If you'd looked at someone who looks like they've been beaten like a dog with that fear in the face, she said, I think you better wait till she gets off the phone. I said, what? I have to wait till she gets off the phone? I don't have that kind of time. I could see the copy machine. I said, would you please give me the code so I can make a copy? So I went over there. I made my copy. I was in mapping early on. I'd done lots of copies. I went back to my office. I closed the door and I went, what just happened? I didn't know that I was an empath at that time. I didn't know that toxic field I'd crossed when I walked out there was just horrible. And I just felt yucky when I got into the office. So I started asking around what's going on in this office. We're the main office for the whole command. I was told they'd hated each other, the two who sat maybe 6 feet apart or less. They'd hated each other for 12 years. I thought, well, that doesn't help me. We are a small team. We need to operate. I'm willing to make copies if I'm the only one in the office, but this needs to stop. This needs to be changed. I need to catalyze this change. And they say, oh, well, they've tried before. They've had mediation, and the mediation said, you answer that phone, you answer that phone, you come in at this time, you come in at that time, and then you're going to ignore each other as much as possible. What terrible advice, right? Terrible. We don't have time anymore to say you can do that in a stovepipe. We are one team. We need to be aware. So I said, well, we're going to do something here. What do you do as a first step? I went and grabbed the most talented people I could find in this area. One worked in the personnel division and one worked in my office. I said, okay, we're going to be a team here. You've got 3 tries. I have to say 3 is my lucky number, but 3 tries. We've got 30 days. I want to see what we can do here. And so we had a meeting. It involved 3 meetings. We went into the first meeting and I laid out pretty much what I explained to you. We're the front office. This needs to be welcoming. It's hard enough for people to come in here. That's very, very important. I don't know what's going on, but you're going to work with these 2 gentlemen and they are going to help you find a way forward because this has got to change. It can't be the way it is right now. We're one team, one small team. We all have to work together very closely, and that's the standard. So I left. They started working with them. The first meeting, they came out and they go, you know, ma'am, you need to be prepared. This might not work. I said, oh, really? And then what happened is my good friend, Doug Krug, who at that time, this professional comes into organizations to help them work together, and sometimes it takes one day for him to fix a dynamic like that. He came in to talk to my entire organization. I felt the need that the entire organization could use and benefit. One of the things is the effective questions. And we've talked about questions in the past. He went in to meet with each one of them separately. And he came out from the first one and he said, oh my. He says, you know, Deb, sometimes this doesn't work. I said, you can't tell me that. You wrote the book, Enlightened Leadership. I believed you. You need to go back and go talk to the other one. See what you can do. He went and he talked to the second one. He came out and he goes, oh my God. He said, I don't think this is going to work. I just don't think this is going to work. You've got your hands full. I said, okay, thank you very much. While he was there, we took the DISC assessment. Some of you know that, DISC. Very helpful to understand things that I found out. If you have someone in the front office, do you think they're going to be active? Like I'm very active. I'm like 3 standard deviations off the chart active, and even more so when I'm in a leadership job. No, they were what they call passive. Now I call them thoughtful. They're thinking, and they were thinking how to get back at each other, all those things. The other funny thing was that when someone new came in, I heard it from a person in the hallway I was talking to, one of our employees, and he told me, they've never said hello to me. I've been here for 10 years, and every time I walk in the office, I got to say hello first. It just was a data point. We get these data points, paying attention. Got to be aware of what's going on. I'm thinking to myself, well, that's not right because it's intimidating to come in the office. They should be welcoming. They should speak first. They should do everything in their power to address the needs of the people. Otherwise, I'm not going to hear about what's going on in my organization. Now, one of the things too, remember I told you about how the desks were? One of the standards that I gave them, I talked to them at the beginning and I said, this may not work. You guys have not gotten along for 12 years that you've been here. So there's no shame if it doesn't work, but imagine the impact if it does work. You will be sending a signal to this organization that we can overcome any hardships that might be happening, be a team, and work together on the good of this nation and helping others. I will tell you, if it doesn't work, then I won't demote you, but you will move out of the office. That was pretty strong. I'm pretty firm on that. And my two teammates who were helping make it happen, I gave them 30 days to move their desks. That was one of the requirements. I'm thinking, when is this going to happen? Because it was a bit annoying to me. And you might be thinking I should have just fired them outright. You might be thinking I should have done that. I had people scream at me, you should have just fired them. But that would not have been the signal I wanted to give my organization, because you can fire people left and right. That's easy. But I never mistake motion for action, because action is believing that they're a resource and they're helpful to this organization in ways I can't even fathom, whether it's today, tomorrow, or the next. I'm going to treat them with dignity and respect, and I'm going to work with them as if they're going to figure out on their own what they need to do. It's not righteous, but doing the right thing, taking the harder course that is helping work together as a team. Lo and behold, eventually they did move their desks. We had 3 meetings, remember, 30 days, 3 meetings. I went back in and I said, I know it's been difficult, but just understand that you either work it out or I'm moving you out of this office. And oh, by the way, if this comes up as an issue again, we won't be having this discussion. I will just move you both. And it won't be one. Initially, I thought one's better than the other, right? No, it's a team. And so I said, both of you will leave. I know how valuable you are to this organization. Your knowledge over 12 years is incredible, incredible. But if you're going to couch it in negativity and not be supportive and work together as a team, then I'll find somebody else who has that potential. I have to do you have to be firm in seeing what is the course and the standards and hold tight to that. It's kind of like kids. If kids want to get something, don't you find that you'll give them a standard? You'll say, we're going to go to dinner, but don't cry. I know Emily, this had a hard lesson for her. I'm so sorry. But she acted out in a restaurant, and I think I was only going to give her 3 warnings. I think I gave her about 5 warnings. And finally, I was done. We're leaving. And then she cried like a banshee when we got out. But if I didn't hold tight to the standard, then people will constantly press you. Pets do it all the time. They train you very, very well if you're going to just, oh, okay, it's okay this time. I just want to be nice, right? What do you think happened at that last meeting, after that last meeting, when the 30 days was just about up? One, I got the desks moved. That's an easy one. They finally moved their desks. And I could see my support person when I looked out the door. And the other thing, they figured it out. Why did they figure it out? Because whether it's fear or just not wanting that change or realizing that what they were doing was not okay, they figured out that they had to get along, and they did it. And everyone said it was impossible. You'll never change them. I had a talk on leverage. It's leverage, it's effective questions, it's high standards of conduct, and holding tight to that, making sure that everyone's doing it, whether it's in your organization or your family or whoever you're with, your nonprofits that you work with. High standards, because that is where people feel safe. They're willing to open up about their ideas, because those answers could come from the youngest member, the most senior member who's maybe discounted because they've been there so long, or somebody you just wouldn't expect to have the answer for what you're trying to accomplish, because they understand the dynamics and paying attention. I thought you'd want a very special system word acronym that I love to help inspire you and stick with this. If you want to be a catalyst and not be consumed by the challenges that you're facing, then what we're talking about is you want to be that spark. You want to be that catalyst to make those changes. What is the S? See the pattern. See that stuck pattern, that awareness of what's going on around you, and making sure that you're not ignoring what's broken. You can see the world today. People are being treated horribly, and people are dying for things that are happening. We know that we have fear because there is a real fear. It's just like in combat that things can happen, but there's always a way. I love The Mandalorian, don't you? There's always the way. And if it's not the way, then we need to make it so. But not necessarily by force, not necessarily the direct approach, or we'll get what I talked about, that interception strategy where you get exactly what you don't want. But first, see those stuck patterns and be aware of them. Women have seen this evolve over the years where we were getting more rights and now we're getting those rights taken away. For those of us who've been through it, we're able to deal much better perhaps than some who have not seen these barriers. Now we're seeing barriers everywhere. But see those patterns and not ignore that. What is the P? Pause before you respond. You knew this was coming because it's like the hammer in my toolkit or my screwdriver. It's the main thing, pausing before so you don't react with fighting, flight, or shutting down, your survival mode. You are responding with wisdom, using everything you know and can use. And so you pause, and breathe and transform it. Observe, choose that calm power. What's the A? No surprise, asking better questions. Those are the things like Doug Krug told me about. I used to just say, what's the present look like? What's the future look like? And how do we get there? No. He asked better questions. You can't start from a negative. So he'd say, what's working well today? What a very effective question. He'd go in a meeting where people were completely dysfunctional. And he'd say, I came here, I was asked to review it, and I'm going to tell you there's not a chance in hell it's going to work. What would have caused me to come to that conclusion? Let's talk about a 5-minute pregnant pause. They'd been called out, right? They'd been called out. Never going to work. And then they'd work through it. There's a whole system of working through it. As I've shared before, these topics we could talk about all day. But let's ask better questions. What's working well? What do you want to create? Being very specific about what you want to create. And those kind of questions and that kind of attention is what changed that 12-year toxic feud I talked about early on. Taking them from where they wouldn't speak to each other and complete disdain for each other until making it a collaborative, even laughing environment. It was really special what we created after that. What's the R? Rise above the noise. Rise because a catalyst isn't about being super loud. I haven't talked really much about Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman didn't need to shout. She just went off and did things. Now, she did things pretty strongly, but she didn't need to shout to make her presence known. She just acted. She acted in ways that were to help benefit everyone. And that's what we want to do. We want to rise above that noise. What's the K? The K is kindle the fire of hope. I find that when things are not where I want them to be, the key people have lost hope that things will ever change, things will ever get better. I talked about that with the two people. I've done it many, many times. You heard about my sweatshirt. Underestimate me, that'll be fun. People would call me intimidating. Why? Because I didn't step aside when I saw things that were not working the way they needed to. I was trying, sometimes not very elegantly, but we can all make that difference. We can all give that hope back to the people who need it the most, who can make that change. You can cause that ripple effect that's going to go far beyond that day and time. It's going to help make things so much better for the future. You can be that spark. Recognize a lot of people who try to get consumed by the process. A catalyst does not get consumed. Is very aware of their own energy so that it's not going to get lost in the process. But it does change everything. And like my characters here, which I want to go back to before we say goodbye, is I have my Wonder Woman, One of my inspirations, this is when she's younger and she's just training. Today is that day to train and be that force for good. But don't rush it. You have to be aware, observe, go after it. Yes, and asking better questions of ourselves and others is a great way to figure out what's next. Today is the day. Start your own growth journey in this. Be that catalyst, but be strong. That's how we become mentally tough. And then what happens? Make it happen. Make it happen. Here she is in all her tools. I like to say what I love to share are tools like effective questions. It's like that hammer, being able to pull that out and pausing, not reacting, but coming from a place of strength and calm. That's what we want to do. Make it happen. And start today. If you find that these things have been helpful, sign up for my Stress Intelligence channel to reach more women so that together we can help be the catalyst for the changes we want to see in this world. And do it with heart and do it in a way that the change is sustained. Because when you force things, it will go back as soon as that force goes away. And what we want to do, as I shared that story with the two women, the change became part of who they were. They knew that's what they wanted to do. Not because I forced them, but because they knew they had a choice. That's what they wanted to do. In closing, get very excited. I'm working on a plan for the future. It will be bringing us together to learn even more and to work with each other on how to get there. If it helped you, use that focus to unlock your life and catalyze the lives of others. Don't wait for that perfect moment. I could have waited for the perfect moment today. This is my second go through. Be the one who lights up the world and lights up the darkness that surrounds so many people today. Thank you for being here. For those who joined me today, it means so very much. Aloha.